For the past 70 years, North Korea has been one of the poorest, most sanctioned, and isolated countries on the planet. It doesn't really export anything, and its economy is basically cut off from the world. But despite decades of sanctions, the North Korean regime still stands. The elite is enjoying luxury, Western cars, yachts, and gadgets. The country was even able to afford an incredibly expensive nuclear weapons program. But how is that possible? How is the pathetic North Korean economy able to survive the complete isolation, finance its military, and even import luxury goods that it shouldn't have access to? Well, the answer is that the official North Korean economy is not how North Korea actually makes money. Instead, what really keeps it alive is a vast global criminal empire created and managed by the North Korean state, from hacking and trafficking weapons to smuggling drugs and printing fake money. North Korea secretly managed to build the largest just criminal organization in the world that keeps the economy and the regime alive, and that no one is able to stop this. But how does North Korea make money? To understand how it happens, we need to go back a little bit. After the end of the Korean War in the 1950s, the North Korean economy was basically destroyed and completely dependent on its main ally, the Soviet Union, for a while. And this wasn't such a big issue because the Soviets were delivering money, technological weapons, and everything else that was needed. But by the 1970s, the Soviet economy was slowing down, and so the support for North Korea dried out. Without the aid from the Soviets, the North Korean economy quickly started to fall behind. But more importantly, it also lost access to foreign technology and products that its industry and military were dependent on, and the country wasn't able to make on its own. By then, the North Korean currency was practically worthless. Most countries would not even accept it as a payment. North Korea desperately needed foreign cash, and so an organization called the Room 39 was created. Despite the vague and nondescript founding name, Room 39 is one of the most important organizations in North Korea, because its mission is to acquire cash for the state outside of its borders using any means necessary. And since normal ways like export or tourism were not really available, the only option that was left was crime. At first, the North Korean criminal empire had humble beginnings. In the first documented case in the 1970s, North Korean diplomats were expelled from Sweden for smuggling duty-free cigarettes and alcohol inside the country and then selling it on the black market. But soon, it expanded way beyond that. Since the 1980s, North Korea has divided into production and global distribution of illegal hard drugs to such an extent that North Korean refugees have described the country as a narco state in which all aspects of the drug operation are controlled by the Kim family. Unlike traditional drug cartels, the advantage of North Korea is that there's no government that they have to worry about. And so the state runs opium farms and labs where the drugs are made, and it uses diplomats and military vessels who deliver the drugs to countries all over the world, from China, the United States, Germany, and Russia. In all those and many more countries, North Koreans have been arrested for selling hundreds of kilos of anything from cocaine, heroin, and crystal meth. Just like with cigarettes in the 1970s, in many cases, it's the North Korean diplomats who are caught selling illegal stuff, and that is not a coincidence. Another big advantage that North Korea has compared with regular criminals is that it can equip its smugglers with diplomatic passports. That means that they can bring almost anything into any given country as diplomatic packages that cannot be checked by the host country. And it's not just drugs diplomatic protection used by North Koreans who smuggle anything that can be sold with a big profit, no matter how illegal it might be. North Koreans have been caught smuggling weapons into conflict zones, as well as smuggling sanctioned goods like blood diamonds, elephant tusks, and rhino horns out of Africa to resell them somewhere else. But as any good businessman knows, diversification is key, and so North Korea ventured even further for decades. It has been deeply involved in making counterfeit currency, basically printing fake money, and their favorite are US dollars, specifically $100 bills. According to the US Secret Service, the North Korean $100 bills are the most sophisticated fakes in the world, made by extremely skilled experts and using high-tech equipment including machines from Japan, paper from Hong Kong, and ink from France. Like with drugs, they are distributed by North Korean diplomats and either sold to criminals all over the world or actually used to buy equipment that North Korea needs. But despite the fact that the US government has known about this for the last 2 decades, they haven't been able to put a stop to it. And the North Korean bills appeared all over the world, including Las Vegas. And the illegal methods of how North Koreans make money keep evolving since the early 1990s. North Korea has been building a considerable army of hackers, and since Kim Jong took over, he pointed their activity away from just spying to more monetizable activities. In 2016, a group of North Korean hackers known as the Lazarus Group hacked into the Central Bank of Bangladesh and transferred $100 million from the Bangladesh Foreign Currency Reserve to various accounts linked to North Koreans. And since then, the same group has been attributed to a number of other attacks all over the world. From the WannaCry ransomware attack to stealing Bitcoin from a South Korean crypto exchange and hacking and extorting pharmaceutical companies that were developing COVID vaccines during the pandemic. But exactly how important are all these illegal activities for the North Korean economy? Well, as it turns out, extremely. For obvious reasons, there are little verifiable data. But different estimates like this congressional report assume that the criminal activities run by the state pay for at least 25 to 50% of North Korea's entire budget. Considering that even North Korea spends 16% of its budget on military and nuclear weapons, the criminal empire pays for all of that. While still, it leaves a lot of cash around for Kim and North Korea's elite to buy Western goods. Now, you might wonder why North Korea's illicit activities are allowed to go on when they clearly violate international law. Well, Korea is allowed to bypass sanctions and keep the regime alive at the expense of other countries. But the reality is that there is very little that the other countries can do about it. Unlike regular criminals, the North Koreans who engage in these activities have diplomatic immunity. And if they are kicked out, they are simply replaced by other North Korean diplomats who continue doing the same things. The drug labs and farms are on North Korean territory, so out of reach of anyone. And imposing sanctions as a punishment for avoiding sanctions in the first place has proven to be not very effective. Just like North Korea is not a regular country, its economy is not a regular economy. The ways in which it makes its money has transformed it from just a state into more of a transnational criminal organization. And the crazy thing is that, at least for North Korea, it works. Its illegal activities are preventing the economy from collapsing. They allow the elite to get all the fancy Western gadgets they want, and even if it annoys countries like the US, there's nothing that anyone can really do about it. For North Korea, it's a win-win situation, and so it doesn't look like they're about to stop.